Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Foxy New.
Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. DAZN approves mismatches yet again. Let's just break it down. According to Michael Benson and TalkSport.com, they state that Eddie Hearn has stated on November 7th is the planned date for Devin Haney's next WBC lightweight title defense. He's also added that Gary Russell Jr. and Yuriorkis GAMBOA are the two main targets for Devin the Dream Haney. A lot of people don't know that Devin the Dream Haney is a world champion. The guy's undefeated, and he was paid a multi-million-dollar contract with DAZN. So DAZN has both of these guys on the approved list for Devin Haney. Devin Haney could face Yuriorkis GAMBOA or Gary Russell Jr., depending on whoever takes the fight and how quickly they can get it done. When you look at each opponent, these two fights are mismatches and they're garbage truck juice. And I'll tell you why. When you look at Yuriorkis GAMBOA, you look at a guy who's basically a 40-year-old coming off a knockout loss and also a torn Achilles injury. So you got a guy coming off a knockout loss and injury and who's already 40 years old. What are we talking about here? This guy is old. He's coming off an injury and a loss. What do you gain from facing Yuriorkis GAMBOA, Wash GAMBOA? It's not going to test you. It's not going to prove that you're at some level because you're fighting a damaged old fighter at this point. This fight proves nothing and it does nothing for you. All that talk about you being the baddest man in the division and you end up facing a guy like GAMBOA, now that's purely garbage truck juice. And then when you look at the other opponent, you look at a guy like Gary Russell Jr. You see Gary Russell Jr., the guy has pretty much talked himself into a lot of things. And, he's possibly talked himself in this fight with Devin Haney. But don't get me wrong, you're pulling up a guy that's a 126-pound fighter. You're pulling up a guy two pure weight classes. So you're pulling up a guy in two weight classes who you're going to have a size, height, and reach advantage over. What is the point in that? It's another mismatch. That does not prepare you for the top fighters in your current division. That does not make you a better fighter going to face those top guys in your current division. It's another mismatch, yet DAZN has approved it. When you look at Devin Haney, the guy is, he's a world champion with DAZN, and he signed a multi-million-dollar deal with DAZN in Matchroom Boxing. So these are his words, not mine. So he's with DAZN and Matchroom, and they approved that they have no problem, and he's a world champion. This is why DAZN is struggling. You're allowing guys like this to face old and washed fighters coming off knockout losses and injuries, and you're also pulling up another guy from two weight classes who's a smaller man at a strategic disadvantage. These fights are mismatches. You're not proving yourself against a top 10 in the division. You're not proving yourself against a guy who's dangerous, who could call stylistic problems and develop your young fighters. No, you're pulling up guys simply a guy can look good against in mismatches. That's not going to grow or build a platform. This is why DAZN is struggling for subscribers in the US market. We just got to be honest and unbiased. Once again, it's the IBFP.